Hey there everyone, and welcome to episode 20 of our Let's Play series for Football Manager 2016. Alrighty, still in pre-season, and I've probably dragged on pre-season a little bit, guys, so apologies for that. Hopefully you found what I've been doing interesting, but obviously we're not too far away, only 9 days away from the start of the Eredivisie season. We've made a few offers for a couple of defenders that we're going to need to get in. Jorrit Hendricks, we're going to try and get him from PSV. And also Wesley Holt, however you pronounce that, and try and get him from Lazio on loan with an option to buy him for 750k at the end of the or some stage through the season. So a couple of decent players there, I think. As we've seen, obviously Kenny T is obviously a right back, used to play for us at Ajax. He went to Porto, wasn't it? He went to Porto, and he is. Yeah, he's actually listed for transfers, so I actually just noticed he actually has a loan option here, so I'm tempted to actually see if we can get an agreement, and actually they've already dropped the asking price down to 13.75, so I'm interested. I'm actually going to put in a cheeky offer. I think I said I did it last time, I actually didn't. I'm going to put a cheeky offer in for, say, 7.5 million. If they knock that back, I'll actually see if we can get him on loan for the season with an option to buy him for, you know, a reasonable fee, and see how that goes. Yeah, obviously, I mean, it's a little bit hard because we do have a couple of decent right backs in here. We've obviously got Van Rijn, who's a very good player. I think Kenny T is actually better though. So if we do a bit of a comparison, just have a look. So with Kenny, we'll do it for a. Oh, look at that! I'm not sure if you guys can see that. Steam has finished downloading Fallout 4. So it's what's the date today? Is the 10th of November. So Fallout 4 was released around about 11 hours ago, so midnight. So 11 AM here in Australia, and it was released at midnight. So that's finished downloading, which is awesome. So I'm pretty excited to check that out. Loved the Fallout 3 and New Vegas, so it should be fun to play that one. Alright, so we've got obviously wing backs here. So we usually play with wing backs. I'm going to actually go with the wing back support here. So we got. I'm going to sort of go through these. It looks like mostly. I mean, it's fairly even across the board in a lot of ways. Kenny's better in the technical stuff, and Ryan's got a little bit better mentals. Oh no, this is actually. Oh, I had the wrong way around, isn't it? It's actually opposite way around. Van Ryan's better in a lot of the technical stuff, but Kenny's better in a lot of the mentals and the physicals. So, given that he's only 20, I know he can improve quite a bit. I'm expecting these technical stuff to come up. Although, if you look at marking and tackling, he's actually a lot better than Van Rijn. But in terms of, it's probably the more offensive stuff like dribbling, crossing, first touch technique that he's not quite as good. But off the balls, he's one down. He's one better in positioning. Work rate is better. Teamwork's the same. What else have we got here? Decisions are the same. Concentration's better. Composure's better. Anticipation's better. Bravery's better. And aggression's better. And his physicals are all better apart from his stamina, which is one down. So he's definitely a lot better player than Van Rijn. Problem that I'm sort of thinking of, we've actually got a couple of guys here, is Leroy and Terry, who are both right backs, but I'm thinking that probably sending them both out on loan. They probably don't have as much potential as Kenny does, and obviously they would be sort of a downgrade to play. So it would be pretty awesome to have Van Rijn and Kenny T actually playing. So I'm actually going to try and get him if we can. I'm still undecided what to do about Mr. Gorkov here. I'm going to have to make a decision in the next few days. I'm tempted just actually, I don't know. I'm tempted to break my rule just this once, guys. I won't do it again for the rest of the series. I just, like I've said before, Johan Gorkov was a bit of an idol of mine when he was at his peak, and just the opportunity to manage him, he would be pretty awesome. So I might give him a season, see how it goes. I'm not sure how many games he'll get. He sort of will have to alternate with a few players. But yeah, it could be quite interesting to see. Anyway, we'll see. I'll think about it. Also, another thing that I've sort of come across is there's not many Dutch national team players that we can get. If we can get, it comes out of Holland, doesn't it? Yeah, Holland. But if you look at the main team, so it's not even showing up here because I'm not even playing the first team. Where are we? Someone has come to my attention that we may be able to bring it back to the club. Problem is we're not quite sure that I need him. Sam de Jong. Sam de Jong is an absolute legend. Love him. 27 years old. He's a brilliant leader. Obviously, he plays sort of more of some attacking roles here. 27, he's valued at 9.25, but I did get a report. It has actually changed now, the estimated cost here. I did get a report just a little bit earlier that actually said only like about a couple of weeks ago, and then it's changed. So I'm not sure what's changed in terms of Newcastle's structure, but it said that we could actually pick him up for around £10 million. So, yeah, I'm actually going to put in a little bit of an offer, see if we could get him. I'm not quite sure that we necessarily need him, but I'm actually thinking about whether we could actually play him in a few positions, and also in terms of like determination and leadership, like his personality and stuff. Like he's a resolute personality, which is quite a good personality. Has some good preferred moves that I know from previous versions of the games managing him. Yeah, so he would be an absolutely brilliant tutor, as well as being obviously a very, very good player in his own right. Yeah, so I'm actually going to see if we potentially bring him back to club. I don't think it's really going to happen, but I'm going to put, like, we've got a massive amount of transfer fee, £31 million we've got sitting there, so yeah, so obviously money is not an issue at all, so yeah, that could be interesting. So I'm actually going to run through a bunch of the next few days, guys, see what happens. Obviously got a few offers and stuff in the works, but we'll see what happens or eventuates with those, and we'll be back soon. Alrighty everyone, and welcome back. So, we have made a lot of progress. We're up to game day on our first game of the Eredivisie season. So, I've done a lot of work off camera, and I'm going to show you what we've done, and yeah, it should be pretty good. Rightio, so we'll start with transfers. Right, so we've sent a bunch of guys out on loan. No one else has left in terms of big sales, so a huge bunch of guys out on loan. A whole bunch of free transfers as well. I'll run through that in a minute. Who have we brought in? Right, so you've seen him. Alright, so we've brought in Jorrit Hendricks from PSV. End up getting him for 3 million, and he looks like he'll be a good player for us. Very versatile, can play lots of positions, which will be good. 3-star currently, he's got 4 and a little bit star potential, so he should develop very, very nicely, which is good. So he should be a good player. We've also brought in Wesley Holt from Lazio. So in the end, we actually had to get him on a transfer, although we only had to pay $300,000 for him, or £300,000, I should say. Because basically another team came in with an offer, a transfer offer rather than a loan offer, and Lazio preferred to sell. So we've given him that. He's earning a lot of wages, so 28k a week, which is a lot of money for an Ajax player, especially one who's not sort of going to be a regular first team starter to begin with. Because he was on like high wages at Lazio, that sort of, you know, he obviously had that expectation to continue his wages. So I think he's going to be a very good player. So 2-star potential currently, still got 3.5 star to go, so he's got another 1.5 stars to go, and like I'm definitely gonna work on. We actually start. I think his physicals don't need any work whatsoever. I think they're really good for a centre back. He's quick enough. He's got great jumping reach. He's got good strength. And yeah, so I think his physicals are brilliant. What he needs work on a little bit of his mental side and some of his technical stuff as well. So we're going to start with positioning for his training, and then work on his marking, tackling, and also we can try and get him tutored as well by a good player, probably maybe hiding it, maybe to get hopefully some of his mentals up. But yeah, so he should be very good. So there's a couple of really good defensive transfers we've had in. John Halseta, we've actually got him from, where was he from? Rosenborg, so we paid $350,000 or pounds for him. I think he will be a very good player, so he's quite excited to actually see how he develops. Not sure he's going to be in the first team to begin with, but we'll see how he goes. Probably going to depend on a few injuries and things like that. So I think his technical stuff is actually really quite good for an 18-year-old. His physicals need a little bit of work, and so do his mentals, but I think mainly his off the ball and positioning is what needs a bit of work to start with. So we're going to probably work on his off the ball, I suspect. Probably going to end up making him a sort of more of an offensive player, but he can sort of play that box-to-box role, so that should be good. Alright, so that's pretty much all the transfers. So we've got a number of young guys in, which is good. So sort of replenishing the the potential stock of what we've got, so which is good. A little bit disappointed we haven't been able to make a sort of a big signing like we could do. We've got the money for it, so I'm almost tempted to sort of blow a bit of money on one sort of really good player. I don't know yet. We've still obviously got £27,000, so I'm just thinking that yeah, we're not. I don't think we've really improved the squad necessarily. Like we've lost a few really good guys, and I think we've got some good players in, especially ones with a lot of good potential. But losing David Klaassen and Riederwald, I don't really think we've replaced them. I don't think anyone... The two guys we've got in, the two defenders, aren't as good as Riederwald yet. I think they may be in time. Probably not quite, to be perfectly honest. I think Riederwald's probably going to be probably a very, very good player. But yeah, and also Klaassen, I think... Obviously, none of the guys we brought in are as good as Klaassen. So we're going to have to keep an eye on that. Yeah, so... I don't know yet. I'm not really quite sure whether we should blow some money on someone, but it's a little bit difficult. We're a little bit limited on who we can actually sort of bring in. We could bring in Kenny T. I'm almost half tempted to actually pay his £13.75 million transfer fee, which is a lot of money for him. I don't know. I'm a little bit undecided. I'd love to bring in, like, we've actually sort of been trying to had a bit of an offer for, had a bit of back and forth with, we can go into our shortlist. Where are we? Nigel de Jong from AC Milan. So he's obviously 31 years old, so a very, very established player, but he's a brilliant, brilliant player. He would be brilliant in either the defensive mid or the sort of the box-to-box role. I think he would be an absolute gem if we could pick him up. Unfortunately, AC Milan currently aren't interested in selling. We've had an offer of 9 million rejected, so I'm actually tempted to actually bring that up quite a bit. He would be an absolutely brilliant shooter as well. He has good personality, some good preferred moves and stuff I know from previous games. Obviously, current international, bit of a star. He'd be good for our commercial side of things. So, someone like him, I would really love to play. He's actually willing to play for us. So he's interested in joining the club. Which is good. So a lot of the actual current Dutch players aren't. I've actually scouted them all. Excuse me. Most of them aren't interested in joining us, which is understandable. Obviously, I suppose given his his age and stuff, he would be apparently fairly interested in playing for us. So I'm always tempted to actually blow some money and actually try and land someone like him, or even maybe CM de Jong, who obviously used to play for us. There's not really anyone else that I've actually really come across that I'm really keen on bringing. There's a lot of sort of potential guys, but no one that's sort of really is jumps out as being brilliant for me. The only thing that sort of makes me a little bit worried about Sam de Jong is that we don't play with an AMC at all, attacking midfield centre, so he'd really have to play striker or maybe out on the right wing, where he's not going to be as good. Yeah, so I don't know. I don't think really Newcastle are all that interested in selling him anyway. But yeah, anyway. So I'm just thinking about that. May have a big money transfer before the end of the season, before the end of the transfer window. We'll see what happens. So, also offered a contract to Lucas Simonson, who actually is, or Simonson, on a free transfer. So he's a sort of a basically play out in the right or in the centre. We'll probably convert him to a centre midfielder. 19 years old, has a lot of potential. He's only sort of 1.5 stars, got 3.5 star plus more potential, which is quite good. So I offered him a contract. He's probably going to be someone we're probably going to loan out, I think. Or maybe we'll give him a season in the B team, I'm not quite sure. I'll probably loan him out. I'd actually prefer to loan him out, I think. He's got a fairly ambitious personality, which ambition is quite a good one for people actually reaching their potential, because obviously they are quite ambitious. They want to reach the best that they can be. Yeah, so we may loan him out for a season, see how he develops, how his value and stuff goes up. So that's the transfers and stuff that we've made. Alrighty, I've set up training. I've set up all of the individual training for the entire A team, B team, under 19s. I'm not really going to run through much of this at the moment. Although Ruben Jensen, why don't you have any position? I thought I set something up for you. That's a bit weird. Why? Alright, so midfield centre. So I actually put you down as a bit of a box to box. Like, you're 28 years old. It's probably not going to make any improvements anyway. Yeah, so that's fine. Everyone else is set up, so B team, all that kind of stuff, everyone should be set up there, which is good. I've gotten rid of a bunch of guys from the B team and the under 19s who weren't going to work it, so we should have a fairly balanced squad. Hopefully people are going to get enough games in the B team and the under 19s. I'm going to check it halfway through the season. If people aren't getting games, I'm actually sort of going to do something about that. I might loan some people out, or I might get rid of a couple of people if they're not performing well and things like that. So I'll keep an eye on that and see what happens there. We've had a really unfortunate injury into Silasson. So Silasson's out for 7 to 9 weeks. He dislocated his shoulder which was really frustrating. I'm going to show you this. This is the pre-season. Actually won every game. Actually won the Friendly Cup as well. We beat Preston and Deportivo, which was quite good results. But actually, the Deportivo Friendly Cup final was actually the one where Silasson got injured, which is really frustrating. So, yeah, anyway, that's life. That's the way things go. So yeah, that's just what happens. So what we've done, we're going to give Peter Lewinber a go. Obviously, he's not really, I'm not overly happy with it, but we're going to give him a go for the first little bit. Also brought in Stan van der Bladeren, who I think is going to be a fairly decent goalkeeper, actually, to be honest. So he's going to be sort of our backup. Yeah, so that's going to be out. So hopefully it doesn't cost us too many points or anything like that. But we'll see. We'll see what happens. So this is going to be pretty much our starting squad. So I'm just going to run through this quickly in terms of who I think is going to start. Well, obviously Sillerson's going to be our number one once he's back. Lewinberg's going to be our second choice. Stan van Bladeren will go back to the B team. We've got Van Rijn and Leroy Owusu is going to be our two right backs. So I've chosen Leroy over Terry L because Leroy's a little bit better developed. I think he's also got a little bit more potential. So I think Leroy is going to be the better player. So we're going to give him our sort of second choice run. That's only if Kenny T doesn't come in. If obviously Kenny T comes in, we'll probably ship out Leroy on loan. Alrighty, left backs are going to be Bollison and Dykes, which is fine. We've got, for our centre backs, we've now got Heininger, Veltman, Wesley Holt, and Jorrit Hendricks are going to be our guys. I think Veltman and Hendricks are going to be our first choice starters. Holt's going to be third choice, and Heininger is probably going to be fourth choice and playing some cup games and things like that. Alrighty, we've got Bazawer, and he's going to be our first choice defensive mid. Christoph Aja is probably going to be a bit of a utility role, but I think I'll probably give him the rotation in the defensive mid role. He's got decent positioning and got some good passing, also marking and tackling and stuff, and good work rate and teamwork. So I think he's going to be sort of our second choice. He's only 18, obviously, so I think he's going to be our second choice in that defensive mid role. This is just talking about I'm going to show you that. This is sort of talking about our number one formation here. So this sort of formation. I actually have set up a 3-5-2. I'll run through that in a minute, but this is sort of just for this. So, alright, so that's that one. So running into the midfield now, we've got for the sort of the box to box roles, we're going to have Ruben Jensen. I think he's going to be a choice in there. He's going to be a bit of a box to box. He's got decent work rate, teamwork, not bad positioning and stuff. Well, good stamina. So he's probably going to be there. Also, who else was going to be in there? Did I see? Someone else actually. I was going to put. There's two guys I had in there for the box to box. I suppose like Duarte and Christoph Ayer as well can also play in the box to box. I mean, it's going to depend a lot on injuries, but obviously probably. Like Hendricks can play in that sort of defensive midfield role as well. So probably, a combination of like Christoph Ayer, Jorrit Hendricks sometimes potentially, Ruben Jensen, even Duarte can play in there for that box to box. But for the attacking midfielder, so the centre midfield attacking role, actually we're going to put Nemanja J. He's going to give him a run in the centre midfield attacking role. See how he goes there. He's got good vision, good passing, all that kind of stuff. See how that works out. And then Daily Sincraven is going to be the sort of the rotation role in there to get his. He will get a fair few games and all that kind of stuff, see how he develops. Actually, interesting, I had a look on today in the SI Games forums. There actually is a bug report which has gone in about midfield positions actually having very low ratings and having too many mistakes, which is actually really interesting seeing how many mistakes. I'm not sure we can see it here anymore. Can we see? I can't see it last season, can we? No, how many mistakes Nemanja G actually had last season. Also the fact that Daley Klaassen didn't actually have a brilliant season in terms of ratings. Like, I know ratings aren't everything. But yeah, like Nemanja G had like about 40 more mistakes than anybody else, which I thought was quite surprising given his stats, especially his mental stats and stuff. I wouldn't have thought he would make a lot of mistakes. He's got really great, technical stuff as well. So that is potentially a bug. Well, it's not confirmed yet 100%, but the guy did actually put in some fairly convincing evidence that his midfield guys were getting sort of disadvantage in the ratings and also having too many mistakes. Or actions, well, basically what it was actions in the games were being recorded as mistakes that shouldn't have been, which was leading to increased mistakes, which was therefore affecting ratings. So that was sort of the whole philosophy around that. So we're going to give Nemanja G a go in there, and we'll take that into consideration. This is a base, there could be a bug in there, and we'll sort of give his match ratings that sort of consideration. All right, so that's the midfield stuff. Out on the left, we're going to have Fischer and Eunice. Eunice is now happy to stay because Leverkusen are no longer interested in him, so he's happy, which is good. So Fischer and Eunice out on the left. We can have Shone and Nuri out on the right. And then Milik and El Ghazi are going to be our 2 strikers, which leaves, who does that leave? So it leaves a few sort of floaters, like utility players. Duarte can play sort of that central midfield attacking and also play out on the left. He did really well out on the left, so we're going to keep him around. I actually had to have a talk to him because his training has been bad, so that should be fixed. So he can say a bit of a utility. That's also leaves Vagiva, who can actually play sort of defensive left, centre, and also defensive mid if we need him. So he's going to be a bit of a utility guy. He's wanted, but he's so far rejected a few offers. They've only been sort of around the £2 million, which is nowhere near good enough. He haven't kicked up a fuss, so it sounds like he's pretty happy to stay, which is good. So Milik's out for 3 to 5 weeks with double hernia, so El Ghazi's going to start there. And yeah, so that's going to be our starting squad. I end up leaving Johan Gurkov. I let him go on a free trial. He actually did really well. He actually performed. He had an 8. He actually had a brilliant game in our friendly cup final. Actually, see here had an 8 rating, the best rating in the team. Actually, no, apart from Mr. Zifuik here, who we'll actually let go. He played an 8.2 in the final, and then we let him go. So it's just, unfortunately, it's just not going to develop him. We had too many players in the position, so that was why. But yeah, so even though he had a really great game at Johan Gurkov, I did let him go. Bologna have put in an offer for him. So if he goes there, I'm almost even tempted to bring him back because we're not massively overstocked in midfield. I think he could be a really good player for us, but he wants a fair bit of money in wages, around 40k, which is a lot. So if he goes to Bologna, well, that's fine. But if he doesn't, if he sort of stays around for a bit, I'll leave him on the shortlist. And we'll keep an eye on that. We may even potentially bring him back. But yeah, anyway, so that's me, our starting squad, which is, I'm pretty happy with it. I'd like one more sort of big name, really good starter if we can get him. But for now, that should be good. So that's pretty much everything. So I've sorted out training as well. Individual, also teams. This is going to be our starting team training. Going to leave it on match tactics just for a little bit. I've dropped down the match preparation just a little bit for the moment. Ball control very high. I'm actually going to drop this down to high now. Actually, yeah. So the workload should be medium, which is what I want it to be. Yeah. So no more staff changes or anything like that. Right. So tactics. I've set up. I've made a few little tweaks to the 4-1-2-3. Nothing major in terms of roles yet. I may look at transferring one of these defensive roles into a ball-playing defender. I've also made a number of sort of player instructions rather than sort of changing team instructions or anything like that. I'm pretty happy with those. I've made a few sort of player instructions, actually got our guys to our advanced players to close down a little bit more. Also to reduce and also our wide players, so the wing backs here, and sort of reduce closing down for these guys through here, and also the box to box a little bit. Basically, the idea is I want our front guys to close down a lot more and retain a little bit more defensive formation or solidity through the back or through the spine, to be honest. I'm happy for our wide guys to close down. Through the spine here, I want sort of a lot of defensive stability. So that's the idea there. I've actually sort of reduced a few passing things as well, so made a few of our guys a little bit more conservative in their passing, reduced some shots as well for some of our wide players, just so they don't sort of waste as many shots. Yeah, so hopefully that's going to make us a little bit more defensively stable. I'm going to keep an eye on it, may make a few more adjustments there. But the big change, I haven't changed this formation at all. I think this formation actually works really well. It's sort of a bit more of an attacking formation. Pretty happy to use that. I think that's a good formation. This is sort of the big change I've made. I've set up a 3-5-2, or however you want to denote it. Yeah, so this is the formation I've gone with. I'm not 100% convinced with it yet. I'm going to give it a few games, see how it goes, wait until it gets up to fluidity. It's going to take a while, probably decent way through the season until it gets up to there, but we'll see how that goes. So this is the formation, guys, here you can see. It's designed to be a fairly conservative formation in keeping with the Ajax way in terms of possession. I want us to dominate possession with this tactic, but the idea, hopefully it should be a lot more defensively stable. The idea is, if this tactic works out how I think it will, this is going to be our big go-to game in Europe, go-to formation in Europe against the big teams. So I think sometimes some of these formations work well against the big teams. Sometimes they really don't, though. Yeah, so I think last season we had some great results like Real Madrid, Tottenham, even Celtic. Who else did we beat? A couple other guys, big teams that we beat, which was really, really good results there. we did really well, but then also like sometimes it worked, which was great. And if like I'm going to sort of run with these formations sometimes in games, if they're working, well, that's great. I'm going to stick with them. But sometimes they didn't work. Sometimes we just got a little bit too blown away. Sort of the individual quality, they were just too much for us. So taking that into consideration, I've actually developed this one. This is hopefully going to be a very defensively solid formation. But also basically also allow us to retain our possession game and also take advantage of our strengths, which is sort of like our technical ability, off the ball movement and things like that. Yeah, so that should be good. So this is it's a fairly sort of stock standard one, and there's a few roles I'm not 100% convinced about yet. I've set up these two wing backs as both on support roles. That's primarily, but they are complete wing backs. I almost sort of toyed with making them just standard wing backs. I'm not sure, I may change one of them or both of them. They're both on just support duties. That's basically just because obviously we don't have any cover out wide. I want these guys to be a little bit more conservative, which is why they're on support duty, but they're on the complete wing backs role, so they are still fairly attacking to provide that width. So hopefully that's going to give us some balance in there. The register in the middle here, not 100% convinced about that either, because obviously the register is a very sort of a box-to-box role in terms of has really high closing down, so it can get drawn out of this area a lot. I'm going to see how it goes. I may need to change it back to something a little bit more conservative. I'll see how it goes though. Central mid is fairly stock standard. Central midfield attacker and a box-to-box on support. I'm pretty happy with having a deep lying forward on support. I think that's going to be necessary. I'm not quite 100% convinced about the advanced forward on attack yet though. I'm thinking maybe we're going to need something like a complete forward or a target man. We don't really have the players. I think Milik could be a complete forward, but El Ghazi couldn't. So that's going to be a little bit dependent. He could play. I think El Ghazi can play an advanced forward, but he couldn't play a complete because he's not. I don't think he has like the heading and the strength and stuff. He's sort of he's a quick player. He's a quick technical player. Really good at dribbling when the ball's on the ground, but he couldn't hold the ball up very well, which Milik could. So that could depend on who's available. I'm going to see how that goes. We may need sort of a complete forward rather than an advanced, but I'm going to keep an eye on that. Fair few, right, so in terms of mentality, we've put on a control, basically just to make our play a little bit quicker. So we're probably going to be counter-attacking a little bit more than maybe what we are at the moment. Yeah, so team shape is flexible, which is pretty standard. Team instructions are also pretty standard. I'm actually pushing higher up the pitch. We're going to prevent short goalkeeper distribution, which is sort of just a personal preference. Stay on feet. I'm going to talk about that one in a minute. We've got retain possession and work ball into box. All right, so we've actually got a team instruction as stay on feet. But a lot of our guys actually have harder tackling. So basically, I want our three central defender guys here and our register to have less tackling. Basically, so they we retain our defensive solidity, our shape. It's the idea behind that. But then our wide players here, and also some of our advanced players here, and our midfield guys actually have tackle harder as well. So basically, I want our front guys to tackle harder, and then sort of retain a lot of defensive stability through the middle here. So I'm going to see how that goes. I may need a few changes. I also made a sort of few other player instructions. Nothing too major there. If you guys are really interested in, I could upload these tactics. By the way, so any of you guys are actually interested in any of these tactics, I can easily upload them to the Steam Workshop. If you guys think that is useful, you want to download them and play with them, let me know. And yeah, that should be good. So pretty sort of stock standard one. Goalkeeping here, the only one I've actually got is just distribute to fullbacks, which is a personal preference. I like the ball to come out to our fullbacks if possible. And yeah, so we're going to see how that goes. So that's the new formation. I'm going to give that a whirl. I'll let you guys know how that goes. But that should be interesting. So I think that's pretty much everything. I think we're pretty much ready and raring to go. We're made of all our transfers and stuff, which is good. Training set up. The squad is ready and raring to go. A few sort of match sharpness with a few guys that are sort of injured a little bit through parts of the season. We're going to need to get them back up, but most people are pretty much up to full fitness, which is good. And yeah, it's game day against FC20, which is good. So we're going to run through this one. This will probably be the last thing we do for this episode. So 29 minutes on the episode already. So we're going to start with our sort of stock standard formation. We may as well. So Lundberg's going to be our number one. Stan's going to be our sort of backup goalkeeper there. So we're going to have Veltman. He's going to play on the right because that's where he prefers to play. We're going to have Hendricks. I'm going to see where he prefers to play in terms of defensive. No natural preference, which is good. So what about Wesley Holt? So it is a good thing to know. Like, I'm not sure how much massive a difference it makes, but some guys do prefer to play on either the right or left. Like Veltman prefers to play on the right. Yep, so prefers to right or the central when in your 3. So that's a good thing to know when you're setting your formation. So you put Jared Hendricks, going to give him a run out in the first team for his debut. Van Rijn is going to be out on the right. Boylerson's going to play out on the left. We're going to have, for our midfield, we're going to have Barzouet, who's going to be our number 1. We're going to have Nemanja G, is going to be our central midfield attack. I think we're going to give Ruben Jensen a go in the box-to-box role. Although I'm almost tempted to give Christoph a go in there. So maybe, who needs the more match sharpness? Probably Ruben Jensen, actually. Yeah, alright, so we're going to give him a go in the box-to-box. Going to give Fisher, so Fisher's on an international, so that's fine, which means Eunice is going to play out on the left. We're going to give Shone a go out on the right, get him to match sharpness a little bit up a bit. El Ghazi's going to play, he needs a lot of match sharpness. He was injured for a couple of weeks in pre-season, so that's why he hasn't got any games yet. So that's going to be our first choice team. I'm going to put Vergiva because he's versatile. Putting Wesley Hoax, he needs a bit of match sharpness. Who else needs match sharpness? Duarte does. Sinkgraven does. Milik's injured. We'll put in John Howseta. I'm not sure he's going to stay in the first team, but we'll see how things go for a couple of weeks. I think he's good enough to play in the first team, but I'm not sure whether we need him, whether we have too many players. We'll see how we go. Who else? Probably put in Owusu. Alrighty, so that's going to be the first team thing, guys. So we're going to jump into the game. El Ghazi is lacking match sharpness, which is fine. Numbers, which is fine as well. So I'm just going to do those automatically. Alright guys, I'm going to pause the video and we'll be back. Alright guys, I'll see you soon. Okay, so a 2-2 draw with Twente. Fairly happy with that actually. I think we actually played really well. We actually couple of changes, even though we did concede a couple of goals, a couple of changes I made to the formation actually worked quite well. It was actually really pleasing to see Ruben Jensen had a brilliant game. He had 2 assists for an 8.9 rating, which was really good. Made some, like as it says there, it's a couple of tackles, interceptions and headers, so he had a really, really good game, which is quite pleasing for a free transfer. 28-year-old free transfer that we've picked up, so I think he's going to be a very good player for us. That is good. Cool, alright, so first game of the Eredivisie season is done, which is nice. So nice to be underway again for the season, so that is brilliant. So a bunch of our guys made debuts as well. So we had Hendricks, Wesley Holt, John Howseta and Luenberg, so all made their debuts, which is good. So it's been interesting to see how everyone sort of beds in over the season. Ajax's Evanson. Alright, so we've actually made an offer for Odvar Evanson, 17-year-old central defender. I've covered him before. I think he's got a lot of potential, personally. I think a lot of his stats, he could actually be a very, very good player. He's going to be a limited player, limited defender, so we'll have to take that in consideration. May need a little bit of work on his technical stuff to play for Ajax, but I think in terms of his defensive stuff, I think he's going to be an absolute beast. So the reason we've actually made an offer now is actually Juventus. I think it was Juventus. We're actually interested in him, although that actually looks like it's gone now. So we've made an offer for around £800,000. Just a fair bit for a 17-year-old, but I think it's worth it for his potential. So we're going to give him a contract here. So give you a little bit of money, give you a little bit more of a signing on bonus. Hopefully that makes you happy. Appearance fee, all the appearance stuff is fine. 10 games, yeah, I'll make it 15. Cool, right, fairly happy with that. It's a decent contract. Alrighty guys, I think I'm going to end the episode here. Hope you're enjoying this series. Hope you've enjoyed today's episode. Let me know any feedback, suggestions, all that kind of stuff. And yeah, that would be good. Alright guys, hope you've all had a wonderful day and I'll see you all soon.